Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Alan Placer of ML Tools. They make hop up parts, speed parts for Power Wheels. So it's kind of a different direction than where we normally go here, but we kind of thought this would be neat because a lot of us kind of came up working with an uncle or a brother or a father's knee working on a car or a go-kart back in the day or something like this, and this is just kind of the next inception of that. So, Alan, thanks for joining us today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. There's no normal direction that leads to what we do. It's such a unique niche that we've created in the mechanical world.
Uh-huh. Now you got some parts in front of you there. Is that a gearbox, I'm going to assume?
Yeah, I got a variety of different things. I got two different gearboxes here that we manufacture. The little kid Power Wheel ride-on cars, our goal is to make them faster, more durable, more runtime, and look cooler. Just like everybody wants to do with their real cars.
Right.
So what we've learned is, just like a real car, if you just increase the voltage on a Power Wheels, you smoke the motors, you burn the gears up.
Yeah.
Other things can't handle it. So over the 16 years we've been doing this, we've been, coming up with products that solve for the need for more power that we all have.
What's the first thing that people? I assume it's probably speed. Is that the first thing they go for? Is they just want it to go faster?
Yeah, absolutely. When ride-on cars come into the country, they have a 5 mile an hour limit by all the toy government associations that control our world. So a lot of times kids get bored with that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And nothing worse than spending nowadays. You can spend easily over $1,000 on a ride-on, and then after a few weeks, the kid just sets it aside.
Yeah.
So this enables them to do more. Usually, voltage is the first place people go. They just think, "Hey, add more volts, and I'll get more out of the car." And not necessarily the case with them.
It gets hard on the batteries, like you said. It gets hard on the motors. What's your background? Did you start out always as were you any kind of technician? I don't mean, how do I say that the right way? Any kind of technician. Do you have a technical background, I assume, obviously?
No, not at all, actually. I spent my first 20 years as an EMT firefighter.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, for whatever the case, I was at World Trade Centers, ended my career there.
Wow.
Grew up, though, with my dad, owned gas stations, and then eventually opened a hobby store. So after 9/11, I went to work in my family's hobby store full time. I was into radio control cars.
Okay.
Always another popular, thing to tweak and tune on.
Yeah.
And we used to get a lot of calls from customers saying they want to make their Power Wheels faster, because we also did repairs for Mattel there.
Right.
And after a while, I just said, all right, there's this need for it. I'm going to figure out a way to answer the service. So I started working with some of the RC car manufacturers on motors. That was the first thing everybody just thinks is, hey, let me put bigger motors in.
Yeah.
So, we have a couple different motors now that we make, different sizes, power levels. And then once we started with motors, they would say, hey, they call me back, be like, I stripped out the gears. So we work with manufacturers that make hardened steel gears. We don't have clutches on these like a real car.
Yeah.
So we came up with hardened steel gears to replace the weakest gears in the gearbox. This one's got it in there. And
very cool.
Yeah, and that way we got more strength out of it. And I've just kept developing them. And, like I said, I don't have a technical background other than that I've always been a tinkerer.
Right.
But I'm really good at finding people that can find the solution. Even if I had a technical background, like if I had the equipment to manufacture a motor, that's not the same equipment that you hob a gear with.
Right.
So totally different stuff. And then, we get into electronics on the cars and circuit boards and all. So I just seek out manufacturers that can make the parts that we need to, fit to our specs, and I have to do all the R&D in-house, a lot of people think that these Power Wheels are all the same under the hood. But they're as uniquely different as a Toyota versus a Chevy, and even each different model is Chevy.
And you touched on something really interesting that I think we relate to is you said, well, you have to go and find people that can fill this niche for this particular part and this particular upgrade. And that's exactly what shop owners really have to face every day, right? It is getting a team together of people with the different strengths that they need in order to turn out the product. Now, we're not selling new cars, but the repair is the product that you're selling, right? So your team's ability to get through a diag or work on an EV versus working on a gas system, or working on a transmission, it's all part and parcel of being that one, the best customer choice of being able to. So it's tough to find people for sure, but I think that's pretty friggin' cool. Now, what's some of the challenges when you were first starting out? What was it?
When I first started out, I had $200 to my name, so that was a big challenge. I've never taken out a loan on the business, and there was so many things that people needed in the beginning, that it was just picking and choosing, and waiting to save up enough money to develop the next thing.
Promotive started because a couple industry friends and I were hanging out, and we realized that the number one challenge all the shops that we worked with for many decades faced was finding technicians. You hear technician shortage over and over out there, and we're not bringing kids into the industry today, and there's thankfully lots of other companies out there who do focus on that. But we believe that part of the technician shortage is the leakage coming out of the funnel. The people that are working with shops or dealers that aren't treating them right, they're just paired with the wrong environment, with the wrong owners. The technicians, instead of looking for new jobs and new opportunities, decide to leave the industry, or they get jaded on it. And we believe that there's a fit out there for the right techs with the right shops. And if we do that, then they're going to stay in the industry, and we're going to help, at the end of the day, the shortage by keeping technicians in the field. Promotive started just by realizing there's really not that many resources for technicians. Of course, there's certifications that they can get, and they can advance their skill set by doing hands-on training, or they can advance their skill set by testing, but there's not that many companies out there focused on making the technicians more successful in other areas. For example, knowing what their career path can be if they don't want to stay as a technician in the future.
And then getting people to believe in me. When you call up a manufacturer and you say, hey, can you make me, a steel gear for a Power Wheels ride-on car? They literally laugh at you. They're like, no, that's not something we want to get involved in. And even today, it takes some effort. Sometimes I gotta, blurt numbers out to them. Oh, we're gonna buy 5,000 a year of this gear. Now all of a sudden they'll take you seriously.
Yeah,
but any starting entrepreneur, even a small garage. When you're a one or two bay garage and you're trying to get some clout, it's tough.
Yeah, and it's very much like we're very lucky in my industry in the sense that like everything comes on something with wheels on it, right? But with you guys, it's trying to educate the customer, like you're trying to look for manufacturers exactly how big the market is, because they might have always thought about making a gear for a piece of ag equipment, right? Agricultural or something like that, traditional lawn care, something like that. And all of a sudden you say like a Power Wheel, and they go, well, what? It's the same as me. I don't have one. I mean, I think it's fascinating what it does, but that must be a riddle to unsolve for some people, to show them exactly how many are out there and how many are still. Because from what I can remember from the Power Wheels, is like some of them would last a really long time.
Yeah, the original Power Wheels, they're plastic. They're solid plastic. Some of the new ones now have metal frames. But other than that, I mean, these things are never going to rust away. Mm-hmm. So the parts we sell, people are putting in Power Wheels from the 1980s.
Wow.
They will run forever, which is a bonus for us. And Power Wheels, they generally make about 1 million vehicles a year. So, I mean, blows away the auto industry.
Yeah.
The biggest trick is people don't necessarily know that it's even a thing that they can modify them. There's a lot of awareness that we've had to bring about.
That's really cool. And I know, like we talked to a lot of the automotive instructors, right? And they'll talk about these young kids that you want to get that are going to be interested in our industry, right? And they all say, oh, those guys with the RC cars, right? They're going to be really cool because that's what an EV essentially is just an oversized Power Wheels or an oversized, RC car, except that you're actually turning the steering wheel. And in a Tesla, you don't even have to turn the steering wheel; it does it for you. But do you fall in line with that idea that the kids that are really strong and not are going to transition to this very easily?
Yeah, so I mean, I race RC cars semi-professionally as a hobby, so that's a whole nother fun part. But that's given me a lot of the knowledge for the for the Power Wheels. They definitely resemble an RC car in mechanics and electrical a lot more than a real car. Um, but what we've found since we've been doing this for 16 years, and we have so many modified Power Wheels out there, as you guys know, if there's enough people out there modifying them, eventually races start.
Most automotive conferences, unfortunately, only focus on one side of the shop. But Tectonic 2026, presented by Techmetric, is different. It's built for the whole shop. Owners, advisors, and technicians all have sessions designed for the work they actually do day to day. It's 3 days in Houston, packed with workshops, panels, and over 1,000 people from the industry are set to attend. And you don't need to be a Techmetric customer to qualify. Hit up the link in the show notes below and check out Tectonic 2026. Register now while you still can to get the early bird pricing. Yeah.
And Power Wheel drag racing has become a national huge trend. At NHRA, IHRA drag strips, and sometimes they're just set up in neighborhood streets, but like sanctioned drag racing exists for Power Wheels, and we're finding it's so inexpensive to get a kid into a Power Wheels race. The kids and dads are working on the cars together, and we're talking about starting as young as 3 years old with these.
Sure. Yeah.
They're doing they run the 60-foot line at the drag strip, and they're hitting up to 40 miles an hour now in 60 feet. So
it's moving.
It's moving. And what we find is the kids go from there up to either quarter midgets or junior dragsters.
Yeah.
Those used to be the entry level. But an entry level for those cars, even for a dad, requires thousands of dollars, a trailer to haul them in, a lot more equipment. Whereas a Power Wheels, you can fit in the back of a Toyota Camry if you needed to, tie it down with the trunk, and go to a drag strip and race.
And we know everybody, like, racers are a special breed in the sense that, like, to them, they just come home from the day job and then they clock in and work on the race car every night, right? And it's part of a sickness, I guess. And it never really grabbed me. Like, I enjoyed watching it, but I was like, as soon as somebody had to say, wait a minute, you're going to work on it every night too, and then you're going to make hardly any money. Like, it would just, I would rather fish. But it's neat, like you said, because they can come in and a used Power Wheel or a handed down Power Wheel and some hop up parts. They can find somebody to, enter into some competitions with. And then if they get bit by the speed bug, well, yeah, then it's junior dragsters and go-karts and, all this fun stuff until they get old enough to get a driver's license and really start to race and, terror. But that's really, really, really neat. I've never seen it. It's not something. There was a company called Grind Hard Plumbing Company that I remember popped up on Instagram, but they weren't modifying the electrics. They were swapping in complete other powertrains, right? Like, it was only a Power Wheels in the sense that it looked like Barbie's old Jeep.
Yeah, they're basically taking go-kart chassis and putting a Power Wheel body on it just to make it look like a Power Wheel. Really cool what they do. That's more for the adult level stuff. We're actually modifying your existing Power Wheels, which, like you said, you can get them for free on the side of the road all the time. Right. Like, a top level dragster doesn't cost $1,000 to build for the racers. And there's other forms of racing too. Actually, the most popular thing and least heard about is smash up derbies. They do them at like county fairs or the good old fashioned stock car tracks that hold big car smash up derbies.
Your auto repair shop doesn't slow down, and neither should your tools. When diagnostics get more advanced, systems get smarter, and vehicles get more complex, one name keeps shops moving forward: Launch Tech USA. From powerful diagnostic tools to ADAS calibrations, wheel alignments, TPMS service, even heavy-duty solutions, Launch Tech USA delivers speed, accuracy, and control where it matters most. Faster, smarter, more diagnostics done right the first time. Whether you're working on passenger vehicles, fleets, EVs, or advanced driver systems, LaunchTech USA gives your technicians the confidence to tackle anything that rolls into your bays. Backed by constant software updates, expanding vehicle coverage, and real support from real experts, LaunchTech USA isn't just keeping up. We're pushing the industry forward. If you're ready to work faster, diagnose better, and stay ahead of the curve, visit our website at www.launchTechUSA.com.
And our favorite way of seeing them do that is put a balloon on all four sides of the car, and last kid with the balloon wins.
Right.
Because these cars, when they're only going 5 miles an hour, you could smash them into each other all day long. They don't break.
Right. That's pretty neat. And again, I would have never. What's available? How do I say that? How much do they get into before they start to break the suspension in them?
Your basic Power Wheels doesn't have a suspension.
Okay.
So, you don't even run into suspension issues. Some of the newer ones, they just basically have springs. They look like shocks, but there's nothing on the inside of the tube. So,
right.
The suspensions are pretty. Steering linkages get broken. Like here's a upgraded steering crossbar that we have for them, and we make upgraded linkages, more durability, and that's even for backyard play. Sometimes we do that, and sometimes it's just because the car has been discontinued by Power Wheels or the other brands. So look, if they made 1 million of them and the car is discontinued, we'll make the parts for it.
Right.
Keep it going.
So what's kind of like when somebody comes to you the first time, what's the first thing that they want, like as a goal? Like, when you tell them they'll do 40 miles an hour, does that scare some people? And they go, I only want to do maybe like 20?
Yeah. So just like real cars, the drag racing, that's 0.1% of the Power Wheel market. Most people just want their kid to be able to go faster in the yard.
Right.
And that's going from 5 miles an hour. Like for backyard use, we don't make parts to make you go over like 12.
Okay.
12 mile per hour. It doesn't sound like much. 12 mile per hour for a little kid in a car, that's fast. And they're laughing. That's the key thing is they're laughing, enjoying themselves. When you come to the website, we have a whole how to modify your car section that we always recommend you start with. Yeah, you gotta educate yourself. We broke it down into a bunch of little micro videos to watch to learn about the different components in the car, and then we break it down even further to a upgrades by vehicle section. So if you already have a Power Wheels, you can go see, well, this is what we make for your car. And then we'll have recommendations from our techs depending on how much you have to spend and how fast you want to go. Because just like real cars also, the more you spend, the faster you go.
That's awesome. That is really cool. This is something I'm going to have to check out. I don't know if I'll buy one for my own use, but I think that's pretty neat. Like what, do people need a lot of tools to get started into this, or do they need an understanding of basic, any kind of programming involved, or could it just plug in and play?
It would help if people had electrical knowledge and knew lefty, loosey, righty, tighty.
Yeah.
But we found the majority don't. That's probably the biggest challenge that we have. We make everything plug and play.
Okay.
The most you might have to do is cut a wire and splice.
Right.
But we make it, solder free. Our electronics are pre-programmed. You don't have to plug into programming or anything. The gearing for the handy people, we make DIY kits. So you can buy just the motors, the gears, and do the labor work yourself and make them fit. Or you can buy everything pre-assembled, so it just drops in. You pull out your old motor gearbox, drop the new one in. Same thing with battery packs. So it just depends on the level you want to get into. I hate that people don't wrench that much anymore.
Yeah.
But that's what this is great for, especially if you do it with your kid. It's a great way to educate them on basic electrical. Yep. I mean, it really is. Your basic Power Wheels is battery pack. The gas pedal is an on-off switch.
Yep.
And then you have a high and low shifter, which is just going from series to parallel wiring, and then 2 motors. So, it's not rocket science for them.
Yeah.
And then the mechanical, everything like the gears just slide into place in a gearbox.
Okay.
There's no like building a transmission kind of thing to them. You can easily rebuild one of these yourself.
Now, do you have safety equipment upgrades as well? Like, because I don't like. Do they have? I don't. Do they have seatbelts in them?
Some of them come with seatbelts. We do sell a 4-point harness for them. And that's really all you need. Sometimes with the Power Wheels, they're light, and sometimes it's better to fall out of the car,
Right.
and
Yes.
then stay in it. Helmets on little kids is a very controversial thing
Right.
because their heads are so heavy to begin with,
Yeah.
and to add the weight of a helmet can be rough.
On a neck. Yeah.
We do make a soft braking system.
Okay.
So on a regular Power Wheels, when you let off the gas, it basically locks up the motors.
Right.
And even on a stock one, the kids are hitting their heads on the dashboards.
Right.
So we make a system that just ramps down the speed for them a little easier.
That's very cool. You guys have thought of a lot. It's important, I think, because when we talk like in my industry about how this ability to work on things and hop up stuff, and when we take it out of the school shop class as an example, right? We've removed some of that, and we're all getting so much exposure to everything, right? Like they can see motorsports, but some of them don't know the path to get into motorsports or get into fabrication or electrical engineering or any of that kind of stuff. And it's so cool because I think, like, I had an RC car when I was a kid, and when it stopped working, I took it apart, and then I took my bike apart, and then I took everything else that was interesting to me that didn't work, and I took it apart. A lot of it didn't go back together, right? But it's still, I was exposed to it, and I think that that's really cool that that's what you guys are doing, and we think all the time. A lot of people grew up in maybe a rural area where they get exposure to like a tractor, or lots of people don't even have a riding lawnmower, right, on their, so they're not getting to ride that around. But lots of us can remember as young kids that was just a joy to ride on Grandpa's knee on a riding lawnmower, something that smelled and had vibrations and sounds. It really was an endorphin kick, and this is good stuff. I like this.
Thanks. Yeah, we have a blast with it. We have fun coming up with new stuff. We're actually right now designing our own line of ride-on cars. I knew from the day I started the company that would be the ultimate kind of thing to do.
Right.
Because it's one thing, to modify a Toyota Prius, versus start with a platform that's designed to be modified right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the next level that we're getting involved with, and that we're really hoping is going to bring back a lot more of the mechanical tinkering to people. Because when you buy this car, it's going to be advertised, on all of our cars right out of the gate. Hey, buy it the way it is. And, when your kid's ready for more speed, you can do that. You can change the looks on the car, all the customizing, just like you do with a real Mustang, you'll be able to do with these.
Very cool. Now, is there kind of starting out, did anybody, from the bigger names, the Power Wheels name, did they kind of play nice, or were they threatened by what you were doing? Or, I don't want to ask.
Power Wheels, which is Mattel, they didn't like what we were doing at all because they're run by lawyers.
Right.
And they are so liability afraid. We bought parts from them. And they didn't know what we were doing with them for years. Before we had our own gearbox, for example, we would take their gearboxes and modify them.
Right.
Well, eventually they got wind and they shut us down. They shut down sales to us, and that was, half the parts we had required Mattel's parts.
Right.
But like I was saying with the ride-on cars, as soon as they shut us down, our only solution was, all right, if they won't sell us a gearbox to use, we're going to have to make our own.
Right.
So if we're going to make our own, we're going to make it better.
Exactly.
And that's what we did. We like little stuff, more durable materials, more grease channels in the gearbox so it doesn't overheat. things like that it doesn't look obvious to the user, but we know the performance is better.
Right. Right. Wow. It doesn't seem to matter what industry you're in, right? It's always, the lawyers are threatening with, you stole our content, or you stole our design, or, patent infringement and all that nonsense. And it's just, I mean, I understand where they're coming from, because people don't know if they go and get, a used one and it's got some of your parts in it and it does more than what the, stock one was, and somebody gets hurt, they're going to be, coming after Mattel, and Mattel's going to be like, hey, but I mean, people have got to do their own research. That's what I tell everybody all the time when they are asking me what to buy or what about this. There's no question that doesn't have an answer pretty much out there. You just have to do the research and find it. So, so what's it take to set up a company like this? I'm not asking for financial numbers, but like is it 3D printing a big thing? Like, what can you build right in house?
So yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, we started with $200, so we don't want anybody else to build a company like this. We literally, there is no real competition for us to date. A lot of people have started in their garage, but they never take it further. Competition is always good, of course.
Yeah.
But it's different components to it. So like we do have 3D printed parts. We don't do the 3D printing in-house because there's actually, to do high quality 3D printing, those machines are really expensive. Yeah. And there's a lot of expertise to maintaining the machine and maintaining the print. As one thing if you're printing one piece, but when you're doing a run of 100 pieces, there's stuff that has to happen along the way with most of these machines. So we'd rather, hire a company that does it in expertise. In-house for us, we do the battery pack assembly.
Okay.
So we still prefer to use the sealed lead acid batteries in the car. There are lithium options, but the lead acids really outperform the lithium long-term for backyard play.
Right.
So we assemble the battery packs, soldering wires onto them and the proper connectors. Different brands use different battery connectors.
Yep.
We do the gearbox assembly in-house, the greasing and all. And we do our own order fulfillment in-house also.
Okay.
We have lighting kits for the cars that we assemble in-house.
You got some neat tires by the looks of it there too.
Yep, we have tires. These obviously not made in-house.
Right.
Tires are always a big deal on the cars because we don't have clutches in the cars.
Right.
The newer ones use the electronics for a clutch, but the older Power Wheels, the spinning tire is the clutch.
Yeah.
First thing people want to do is add more traction to it.
Uh-huh.
And as any auto mechanic knows, tighten the clutch, blow more parts.
That's right. You start breaking axles and drives and everything. Yeah.
But some of the cars come with such an aggressive off-road tread that on the street, it rattles your kids' teeth out.
Yeah.
So we sell tread options to get street tires for them. And we have actually next month, we'll have our first round of a more rubberized plastic tire. So you'll get more grip because we've made things more durable. Now we can start increasing the traction.
Uh-huh.
So we are increasing the grip level for the new tires that are coming too.
Yeah, I understand that method. I'm a Jeep guy from way back when, so I understand that, when you air the tire down, now you guys don't have air tires, but when you air them down and you start giving the growth pedal to it, right, you're going to hear stuff break. It's just inevitable. You're getting up that hill, but you're going to hear the cash register ring.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat, man. I really like that. What, so after fast, is that the next step that they do is they go to a tire? So backyard person?
After motors, you mean?
Yeah.
So generally, batteries and motors go first. Mm-hmm. You can do whichever one you want first. If your car came as 12 volts and you up it to 18 or 24 volts,
okay, the
motor may last a little while, but eventually you're overvolting the motor. It's going to smoke.
Yeah.
So it's motors and batteries. That's the main thing for speed. Then maybe you'll change your traction up. We can change gear ratios on a lot of the cars too.
Oh, sweet.
It's not huge, like you can get 1 more mile per hour of speed.
Right. Okay.
But the bigger motors have so much more torque that it's okay to give up some of that low end to them.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
What's this? What do you see? What do you see returned a lot as under warranty or broken, or where do you see the weak points show?
Weak points are usually the gears. If something's going to give out, it'll be the gears. Something has to give at some point. Again, as we make these, and if you run the car stock as it is, with our modifications, you should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we get guys that, once they put the modifications in, now they build trailers to pull around, or they're putting adults in the car so it's overweighted, or they're challenging the car to see how much they can make it do.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to try to keep the gears to be the weakest point. Electronics are harder for people to diagnose.
Yeah.
There's no repairing a circuit board nowadays. You just toss it out. But replacement gears, if you break the nylon, and that's why we don't make them all in steel, a nylon gear is $10, $15. So keep a couple spare ones on hand if you're going to play that hard.
And less than an hour to swap out, Alan?
Oh, easily. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Gearboxes are easy to access. Like 15 minutes, you can rebuild a gearbox.
Yeah. So that's not like, if you only need a little bit if you're going to go out for a day and, and carry some spare parts for it. It's not like, wow. I like that. And so putting adults on it, that's not a good idea.
Generally not. I mean, I'm a 170-pound adult, and I'll drive around in a car to test it.
Right.
That to me is the standard. Like, it has to be able to handle my weight.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we know people who do. We actually sell for one of the kids' cars. We call it a big kids kit, where it's a metal rail chassis, but it's got a front module, a seat, and a rear module. So we just made a longer chassis for it.
Yeah.
So now you could fit an adult in it, and it's a fun kit. So, we don't want people to not have fun, but you have to realize, just like I'm going to keep saying just like with real cars, you're getting into it as a hobby.
Yeah.
So things will break because you want to push it to the highest level of performance.
Uh-huh. What about, would we ever see boats come along?
No.
I
would love to build a boat. And there's been a couple of dads that have made their own. The liability of, me saying, hey, put your 3-year-old in the water with a boat.
Yeah.
We know the kid can't swim yet, but, no, it's not coming.
No, I imagine I think of, like, we've seen some of that little Tykes boat that was meant for like a sand, box, and guys do weird stuff on the back of that, and they're all of a sudden they're out there, like, I see grown adults out at it in little videos fishing, and I'm thinking, well, I don't need anything quite that small, but I mean, it's just fascinating to me how everybody takes an idea and just makes it their own. I think it's so cool,
Yeah. It's a different liability level if you're doing it with your own kid versus me selling it to you and telling you it's okay to do. Yeah, we don't those 40-mile-an-hour dragsters. That's not us. They're not using all our equipment. They may use pieces here and there,
right?
But we don't sell a 40-mile-an-hour kit,
right?
So we sell wheelie bars.
Which is saying go give it, but yeah. What's the obstacles that you've run into with this business?
The biggest obstacles, besides like when Power Wheels says we won't sell to you anymore, is the variety of cars.
Right.
Power Wheels actually stopped making cars about 1.5 years ago, the Mattel's Power Wheel brand. And what that did is it opened the floodgates into what we used to call the cheap Chinese cars.
Okay.
But they're not so cheap anymore. They've been improving the quality on them because the demand's been higher now. But we used to, like, Power Wheels used the same gearbox in all their cars and that same analog switching in all their cars. Now we have as different, again, from Ford, Toyota, Hyundai, all flooding into the country. And I can't just go buy one car and say this is going to work, on everybody else's cars. So the R&D is a lot more. There's a lot more expense to R&D, and it takes a lot of work to, first of all, they have to produce enough of that car. before
Yeah.
we're going to produce modifications for it. There's a really cool tank that's been out for 5 years. Like the kids sit in it, the turret rotates, it shoots.
That'd be
It's a tank.
amazing.
Who doesn't want that?
That's right.
And we really want to modify it. We hear complaints about problems that it has that we could solve for,
Uh-huh.
but man, they just got to make more of them first.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then some of the cars, once we get a couple of them in, like we started realizing there's like 5 different gearboxes that are being used, but they were so similar. Some things were off by like 1 or 2 millimeters or
Right.
1 or 2 teeth on gears. So this transmission is actually going to be on the market next month that replaces 90% of those import vehicles gearboxes
That's
with
cool.
more speed and more durability. We put steel gears and ball bearings in it, faster motor. But that's been the biggest challenge for us is just the wide variety that's coming out now.
Because people must contact you with something they didn't buy from Mattel, but from somewhere online, Temu or Amazon or something like that. And then, it breaks like it probably will, and they want to fix it. And it's tough to tell them, well, it's only a whatever $300 car. Like there's no support. There's always a market for support. It's just that's how the basement hobbyists like yourself start up, right? Is just trying to fix what breaks.
Yeah, most of the cars sold on Amazon, there's no parts sold. The people that are importing them into the U.S. are not interested in parts support. And we've even reached out to the manufacturers and said, hey, we'd like to be a U.S. parts dealer. They're not interested. It's a shame. It should be illegal. And that's was one of the catalysts to us bringing in our own line of cars.
Yeah.
Is that we're going to have full part support, tech support, everything that you need for them.
Now, go ahead, sorry.
I would say we even just started a program where you can book time to have a Zoom call with one of our mechanics. So you bring your phone next to your car while you're working on it, and the mechanic will sit and help you work through that. Don't you wish you had that for real cars? It'd be great.
Is that a free service?
No, but we're only just $20 for 30 minutes. Because it's education for us. It helps us to see where the pain points are for the customer. So it's a kind of a win-win.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. What's the challenges if they're of finding? Is it hard to find people that can kind of do this kind of work?
Very hard.
Yeah.
Most of the mechanics out there for Power Wheels do it for maybe 3 years while their kids are into it, and they move on to something else. So like in our shop, we hire mostly retired engineers, technicians, because they latch on and figure this out really quickly, and they enjoy doing it. Yeah. Retired guys that want to get out of the house are the best. And then our local high school has a engineering program. So we have students come and work with us too, which is super rewarding for us. And not only do they learn the mechanical and electrical, but they're in the shop where we're doing order fulfillment, and they get to see how a business runs too.
Yeah.
Which, so many mechanics open garages and, they don't understand the business end of it.
Well, then that's it. There's so many, because even when I went through, like my college program was 2 years, and I went through, and not once did we ever talk about, was there ever a classroom or 2 weeks at the end of the semester or something where we talked about, okay, so if you should make it to your own business owner level, this is the important stuff to look at, right? Was how to find people, how to set your labor rates, how to, run cash flow, all that kind of stuff. They never taught us that. And the young people, again, like they're getting even less training on money management in secondary school and public school and all that kind of stuff. And it's really lacking. That's the joke, is that mechanics are terrible with money, and we are. But there's, I would argue that, just like you said, there's so many mechanics that start a business, or anybody that starts a business and doesn't really understand what it takes. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks I can just put the work in, and yeah, you got to put the work in, and you got to have the product that people want. But there's lots of guys with lots of talent that didn't make it because they didn't know how to set up their numbers, right?
Yeah. Marcus Lemoy always says, people, products, and process. Mm-hmm. And most of the mechanics know the product, and they're really good with people maybe, but they don't know the processes.
Yeah, some mechanics. Yeah,
Some mechanics are mechanics because they don't like people. I know.
that's right. Yeah, like you wouldn't see us being doctors. That's the thing that always rattles me. Right? Is they, oh well, they're just like doctors. No, they're not. Every doctor that I've ever met has some decorum of bedside manner, but yet I know mechanics that just like you can just look at them and you know that they don't want to talk to
Yeah.
a person. Now we're getting better, but that's a whole other, where does that come from? A lot of us, we're on the spectrum, right? So it's like we're not always really super comfortable with crowds and strangers and stuff like that. We're comfortable with nuts and bolts and gears and wiring and colors, and that's what makes us comfortable. People sometimes trip us up. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wish the business side was taught more. The young people, so these high school kids, are they shocked too when they see this stuff?
I think they're shocked at the scale of it.
Okay.
Nobody thinks that what we do can be as big of a business as it is.
Right.
So they're shocked, but they're also, I think, thrilled then because they're never sitting around bored. We always have stuff for them to do.
Uh-huh.
I think they may get a little shocked by the repetitiveness of it. It's one of the struggles we deal with. Anytime you're doing assembly of products and stuff, we try to rotate them around.
Yeah. Because it can be, it's like how many brake jobs have I done in my career, right? And easily close to thousands of them at this point, or tires is the other one that like I've probably done 1 million tires, right? So it's not like it's no stimulation anymore about that, right? And you've got to keep the young people, like you said, constantly trying new things until they find that thing that they can do multiple times and not get burnt out and not get bored and not get to where they start doing it with their eyes closed and make mistakes. Like they got to be constantly challenged, and I think we got to move them around. The idea that it's one thing to be specialized for sure, but there's a lot of technicians now that have glaring weaknesses in other parts of fixing cars because they become so specialized on one facet, and I think that that's been another detriment to where we're going. So,
Yeah, that's why I like to move them around. Even if they're good at one thing, I want you to work on other things so you can get good at the other things too.
Uh-huh. Yeah. What so what do you see? Like you got your new gearbox coming out. Mm-hmm. What's some other things that are you're hoping to give us in the next year from a ML Toys perspective?
The big thing is definitely the ride-on cars that we're coming out with. That's huge. So right now on the way to us is our first vehicle is going to be a fire truck.
Okay.
We went simple. It doesn't sound like a performance vehicle. But to get started, we bought an existing mold of a really cool looking American fire truck. But we're putting all of our electronics and mechanicals under the hood. So it'll actually work well now.
Right.
I mean, a fire truck is just, what kid doesn't want a fire truck? It's got a working water cannon, flashing lights.
So it has a working water cannon.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I couldn't. I used to be a firefighter. How do I not have that?
I was just going to say that must tug at you then, right? Like you must have, when you thought the idea like that, you must harken back to they have a soft spot for you. Like what kid doesn't love fire trucks, right? Like they're loud and shiny and yeah.
And you'll be able to modify that one as well. I don't know that people will want to so much. You don't need a 12-mile-an-hour fire truck. Or maybe you do. Who knows? We'll see where it goes.
I want a bigger water cannon. That's what I want. Like I just want to sit there and spray the neighbor's dog. I don't need to.
Yeah. So then for next 2027, we should have out a on-road car.
Okay.
That basically looks like a T-bucket. So one-seater. I like one-seaters because you can get more speed, more maneuverability.
Yeah.
You got more than one kid. You should have more than one car. Don't have them share a car. What kid ever wanted to be a passenger in a Power Wheels? Yeah, you want 2 Power Wheels and let them race each other.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a small block motor up front with the blower on it. We're actually going to sell the blower as a separate part. So if you got one of the old Power Wheel Corvettes, you can bolt it to the hood.
Very cool.
It'll be very much modifiable for more speed. Both in motors, gears, batteries. Wheelie bar will be able to attach to that. The drag racing world is really in need of a new chassis to start racing with.
Yeah.
So this will suffice for that community. But it's going to be really cool. The motor and the exhaust are going to light up, and
That's
just
awesome.
fun stuff. And then we're doing an off-road car, which is a throwback to the 1980s California dune buggy, radio controlled cars of the 1980s. It's going to kind of have that look to it with the
Yeah,
big
like
vertical shocks on it.
Yeah.
And that is actually going to be changeable from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive if you want to upgrade to that. And we'll have tire options, again, all the speed options. So that's been taking a lot of my time. I thought when we went into this, I'm like, well, we make motors, we make gears, we make electronics, we make steering, we make tires. How
Mhm.
hard can it be to make a car out of this then?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's hard. It's very hard. And there's a whole different logistics world to importing a full car versus small parts and to shipping
Mhm.
them to the consumer.
Right.
So we've been learning all of that process as we go too with it.
What's some of the things when people are buying one of yours? What's like is maintenance other than the battery? Is there what's involved in maintenance of it? Just the battery? Keep it
Just
charged?
the batteries. Yeah, it's a great thing with electric cars. All
Yeah.
you do is, if you're using the lead acid batteries over the wintertime, remember to charge them once a month.
Right.
Keep them fresh.
Yeah.
The cars are otherwise 100% maintenance free. The motors, you could run them underwater. People don't realize that, but
Oh.
we don't recommend you get like the electronics wet and all.
Yeah.
But
Don't go crossing the creek in it, but for sure.
yeah,
Because I was thinking, like, as a Canadian up here, like, there's some snow, right? And I have seen a kid on a Power Wheels in the wintertime, in parades and stuff like that. At Santa Claus parades, they tend to bring them
Yeah.
out and drive them along and, stuff like
yeah,
that.
the all-wheel drive ones will do snow okay. Not too deep. Obviously you sink into the snow.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll handle it.
Very cool. Very cool. What, so how much of the, how can I ask that? How much of it is built in the USA and how much of it's built, like pieces are built offshore?
Yeah, so this sucks.
Mhm.
Every time I come up with a part that I need, I try to get it made in the USA.
I understand.
The steel gears are the only thing we have made in the USA.
Right.
Everything else has to be made overseas, not because of pricing, but because the manufacturers don't exist here in the USA.
Yeah.
These electric motors, like you have these electric motors all over your car, your windshield wipers, your power windows,
Yeah.
anything that moves in your car that's, by a button,
Mhm.
the motors aren't made here in the US. So this tariff situation isn't helping us because
Yeah.
it's not making me go to a US manufacturer. The manufacturer doesn't exist. Circuit boards in the US cost 20 times more if you can find the manufacturer to make it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're still going overseas for a lot of this stuff. But I'll always price it. I'll always check. Just our metal fabricators, these metal bars. We have other metal parts that we have made. They're cheaper to have made here in the U.S. and locally too, even better for us.
And we get that on the automotive side, obviously, all the time too, right? Like people, and it's they don't understand that most of the part shortage problem, especially COVID talked about that, was because there were shipping containers sitting overseas that they just expired the parts because all of a sudden they couldn't get here, and it drove them. It really changed the market. Like it was, and unfortunately, like I don't know. Don't get political, Jeff. All that money that should have, was whatever COVID relief, it didn't go into, I feel, into the infrastructure to, boost production and manufacturing. I think it just went other places. And it should have woke a lot more people up to the reality that, like, we're too reliant on some foreign, now I get it. Yeah, people that work for $5 a day over there versus people that, won't go to work for under $100 a day here. Right. And I understand both points. And I'm not trying to say we're overpaid. That please, the shorts are going to blow up, Alan. People are going to be like, you're a communist. But we have to think about how do we get things back to being made in North America? Because I'm a Canadian, right? So it's like we have tariffs up here that are even affecting now, like my wonderful leader, sarcasm there, is going to make a deal with China to bring in EV Chinese EVs, and we're already going to start building the batteries for these, And I like the idea that anything creates a job for sure, but it will come at the effect of like we'll shut down a GM plant for sure. It's going to close, and then we move people that are not from that company to these jobs now building batteries. It's ludicrous to me how that can happen so fast.
I don't know where all the tariff money is going, but it would be nice if they use that tariff money to create grants for people to start businesses here in the U.S.
Yeah.
They're talking about giving it a lot of it back as a rebate to, American taxpayers. And I will tell you, up until this past year, the busiest single sales day we ever had was the day that people got their first COVID relief check.
Right. Oh yeah. Same.
They were bored.
It was the same up here during COVID. ATV boats, it was a boom, and we saw the used boats shot up in price like they were ridiculous. You would have thought, and I'm looking at this going, that guy's crazy. That's a 20-year-old bass boat, and all of a sudden it's back up to $20,000. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. But there was a market. I don't know the discount thing to me, or the rebate thing, or the grant thing, the discount rebate. We see it right now where they're telling us we're going to give you a $300 grocery rebate. That's not. It's not that it's not appreciated, but
it's not solving a problem,
and it doesn't help the people that really need it the most. That's the other thing too.
But give it as an incentive to start a business.
Yeah.
And now you're teaching somebody to fish.
Uh-huh.
You're giving them, and they're going to hire employees. And I don't know, but we're getting political.
Yeah. Does ML Tools have a succession? Like, is there family that wants to
take over?
Yeah.
No, ML Toys. It's just me as the owner. I was actually going to retire, but then decided, hey, let's make my own ride-on cars instead. Let's go the opposite end of retiring and selling the business. So no, right now, hey, look, anybody wants to get into the game, contact me. I got a couple more years left in me. I'm young, right. But I'm open to somebody else if they wanted to get into the game and bring it bigger. Like I said, we're Summit Racing, and even Summit Racing has competition. It's a very unique position we're in to have a business that has no real competition. And at the size we're at, it would be very hard for somebody to start from their garage and create it.
Right. Right.
And again, that's another reason we're excited about having our own ride-on car line, is because it's going to be on such a different level than all these other cars that you can get.
Well, and that's the same as like there's Chevrolet and then there's AC Delco, right? Like the people that are in the know how they're linked. But everybody knows what a Chevrolet is, but not everybody knows. It'd be the same with you guys. Like if I don't want to say 10 more years because you tried to retire, but if in 10 more years, like you guys really take over that market and all of a sudden we're not calling it a Power Wheels anymore, we're calling it, an ML. And that's a pretty cool thing to be able to say, this is Alan's legacy, right? Because shop owners are trying to do that same thing, as they're trying to build up something that when they walk away from it, it's worth something. And either, if there isn't a succession of, children that come up in the business and they want to take it over. And that's a reality. Like it amazes me, because starting out, I just assumed every shop out there had a kid that worked in the shop, daughter or son, and they were going to take it over. And now I see so many of them talking. They're like, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want them to be involved in it, or or they have zero interest. And now I'm just trying to make this, marketable to another investor. And then I can walk away from it and go fishing or sailing or, like whatever they want to do. Right. Like
My son is a big time car guy, but he's just not interested in the ride-on car business, at least not right now.
Right.
And so, he's off doing his own career. And for me, the legacy of it, I'll sell the business and make money doing that. But the legacy for me is seeing all these kids, the dads and kids, having a good time. Hey, let's not rule out moms and daughters.
Right.
And then that they're seeing them grow. I love nothing more than seeing a kid that used to drag race is now into a stock car
Yeah.
because we've been at it 16 years. So I've been watching these kids grow up. And that's a great part of the legacy, or just that it's invoked them into some kind of mechanical career. Maybe they'll become an engineer and build bridges or
Yeah.
whatever it is. I love that part of it. And then because this started as a grassroots, side hustle for me, I've had the opportunity to work, with entrepreneur groups to do a lot of coaching and teaching. And that's the other half of the legacy for me, is helping other men succeed in their businesses from what I've learned.
Uh, any famous customers of ML Toys?
Yeah.
Could get into trouble or?
I don't think so. One of the we have quite a few actually. One of the things that really launched me from being a side hustle, we have this $200 battery pack. At the time, it was one of the most expensive things I had. This was like 4 years into being a side hustle,
Okay.
and I woke up one morning to 20 orders for this battery pack.
Wow.
And when you're doing this from your living room at the time, I called up one of the customers. I'm like, hey, I think this might be a credit card scam.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you really ordered this. And he's like, no, Richard Rawlings posted a video of your stuff in a kid's car, and I gotta have it. Ship it out today, please. So I looked online, and sure enough, it wasn't even Richard doing it. It was MadRam11.
Okay.
I don't even know his real name, but he does the rock racers, the Jeeps that go straight up a mountain incredibly fast. And he had modified one of his cars with our kids' stuff, and Richard Rawlings had reposted it.
Yeah.
Oddly, I met Richard in 2019 at SEMA,
Okay.
and he had no idea.
Right.
Like, I went up, I'm like, thank you, you've created this multi-million dollar business for us and all. And he's like, who are you?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
idea that his video did that. And then since then, probably our biggest, as far as coming back the most customer, Joey Logano.
Okay.
His kids love our stuff. He's got a YouTube video of the baby reveal they did for their third kid.
Okay.
They took a Power Wheels and did a Burnout, popped the smoke out of the Power Wheels.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
of course, his Power Wheels Mustang is painted up just like the real one. Clint Boyer, Dennis Anderson from Gravedigger.
Yeah.
There's been others. Unfortunately, now I don't see the daily orders going through anymore.
Right.
I'm busy on the R&D and marketing and all that, so there may be names going past that I don't see.
Uh-huh.
But
How many years have you been going to SEMA?
I just did the one SEMA. I need to do it again. We don't show at SEMA. I go there to meet with different manufacturers and try to come up with, like we met with DuPont to try to come up with paints for the cars and gauge manufacturers, because we do gauges and
Yeah.
SEMA's cool. And I'm a car geek, so why wouldn't I go?
Well, I've only been twice the last 2 years. And the first year, I was the same as probably you, where like my eyes bugged out of my head and I never felt like my feet touched the ground. It was incredible, right? And Richard Rawlings, he's a trip. That guy, he's very polarizing. People either love him or hate him. But I mean, if I got to that level of money, I'd probably be a lot like that, where I would just be like, let's just throw money at the problem and have some fun. Like, that freedom that comes with that. And then again, people don't realize what makes a lot of people that way is just a high level of confidence. You know what I mean? Like you all know, we never see some of their backstories, their failures. You just see the success and you go, oh, they had it, they got it handed to them. And most of them have all had at some point like hit rock bottom and then crawled themselves back out again. And I mean, that's what truly tests you. You know what I mean? And shop owners, it's the same thing. Like I've talked to more than one shop owner that the first kick at it, they failed and they had to, swallow some pride and go back to being an employee again. And then they come out of it and it's those lessons that they learned. So I tell everybody, like, you're not done until you decide you're done. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's what
started this business for me. Like I said, I had $200 to my name. I was going through a divorce, lost my other career. I was at rock bottom. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, let me do this. And, filled the need. I've never tried to sell any of these products.
Right.
I listen to what people are asking for and make it on that. And that when you're serving, people give you money for serving their needs.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of failures along the way with this. When you're the first to the game,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, you have failures. You have electronics failures, gear failures. I've had cars go up in flames on me.
Yeah.
It's part of it, and they all come at a financial cost, and that's the difference between a Richard Rawlings, and a guy that is just always doing the same thing. Is you've got to be willing to take the risks and know there's going to be failures and just pivot.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't work. All right, how else am I going to make it work? Keep finding a way.
I say that all the time because it's the same thing. Like just like a technician, the first time you do a job, it's slow, and then you realize there's a sequence to this, and certain orders of doing things speeds up the process exponentially. And then the next day you get to do it again, maybe, and you're like, wow. And then that's how we get to that point where we're so fast, we're so efficient. And then they jerk the rug out from underneath you, and they change the platform, and all of a sudden, you're back down to they wire it different, different programming, different networks, and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh crap, here I go learning again. But this is what this is. Life's about learning. It's not about, you don't ever stop. You just continue to, like you said, pivot, adjust, listen to your customers, market to them, meet them where they are. That's key. A lot of people are, they think they're doing marketing, but they're not meeting them where they are. And that's takes a lot of listening and good people that want to hear what they have to say, because they drive the market. Unfortunately, I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and they say, oh, you can't charge $200 an hour as a door rate in the shop. And it's like, you most certainly can. Their shop's already doing that. And part of the naysayers is that, well, I'm never going to pay that. It's okay. Everybody can't build a business that satisfies everyone. There are people that won't eat at McDonald's because they just won't put that in their body. And then there's people, unfortunately, that's all they can afford. And it doesn't mean that the person that's making, selling a steak for $100 is ripping anybody off. It's just, it's a different clientele, a different customer base. And, people get so wrapped up in saying the word can't. And yet, I don't mean to throw, but you can sell a Power Wheels and people will spend $1,000 on a Power Wheel. Right. And then we turn around and we say, but I can never charge $500 for a brake job. People are spending money on toys. We can certainly always, meet our market where it is. It's just how you have to sell the value of it, right? You have to get behind the product and say, this is why I'm worth what I'm worth.
Yeah, like you just said, it's all about solving their problem. Mm-hmm. How much are they willing to pay to solve that problem? Yeah. Not how much are they willing to pay. It's about solving the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. What's, do you have an exit strategy, like in terms of a day by when you want to be out? What do you like to do when you're not doing this? Like, you don't want to go back to being a fireman, obviously.
No, I'm not doing that anymore. So my spare time, I hinted at before, I race radio control cars.
Right.
I do 1A scale off-road racing.
Okay.
So the tracks look like Supercross tracks. Mm-hmm. And I travel around the northeastern U.S. and go racing. We'll be at a 4-day race this coming weekend in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Very cool.
And I'd like to do more of that. And then because of the racing, I wound up getting an RV, and my wife and I have fallen in love with RVing. I mean, as a car guy, RV is kind of the ultimate car.
Yeah.
And so I love, we want to do a lot more traveling around and all. But I don't have a specific exit date for the company. I'm going to, as long as I'm enjoying it, I'll keep going.
Right.
Or if somebody offers me the right amount of money, everything's got a price. But, there's certainly an opportunity for somebody else to make wealth off of this if they have that same servant attitude.
Right.
It could be very easy to just make parts and say, hey, I'm going to make parts that you should buy.
Yeah.
And that won't work. You just got to keep listening. Keep on developing. A lot of what I do is really more in the development. I have a marketing company, so I don't have to deal with the outbound marketing anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm the brains behind the operation that listens. I go on the forums and the Facebook groups and listen to what people's pain points are.
Right.
And then I find companies that can make it. And again, I'm no engineer. To me, if an engineer would own this company, he could take it to another level above.
Yeah, I think they're all getting snapped up by the car companies, though. But I mean, you must have some talented people already that work for you that are just surprise you every day with what they can do, right? Like I think
Yeah.
that's
It's
part.
either the guys that work for me or the companies that I reach out to.
Mhm.
That because that's what I do. I just like when I need a gear made, I just reach out to companies and I don't know how it's done, and they'll always come up with a better way than what I was thinking of myself.
Right.
There's a popular saying in the world: "Ask who, not how." I
Yes.
stopped trying to figure out how to make a part and just start figuring out who can make me the part.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always someone, eh?
Yeah,
What's the biggest pain point then for the business? Just
biggest pain.
lack of like, is it the cost? Like we said
The
earlier?
tariffs have been a big pain point for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Working with that, costs are tough because there is only so much money that people will put into a ride-on car.
Hmm.
They'll put way more into a dirt bike, a side by side, any other motor vehicle.
Yeah.
So that does limit some of the stuff I'd like to design um, because I can, it's really hard to make a $500 part for a
Yeah.
$500 car.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's nothing too painful anymore. Maybe I don't perceive it as pain because I'm willing to take it on and figure it
Yeah.
out.
It's just a
Tires
challenge
were a
for.
big pain point for the longest time. I tried to make tires for over a decade,
Uh huh.
but the expense was just way too high.
Yeah.
And then I think it was before COVID, right after COVID, the cost to make a mold this size got way cheaper,
Hmm.
and so now we can pop different tires out for the different cars.
Yeah. I would think that'd be a ton of tooling to do a tire. A ton of
Yeah,
tooling.
it's the mold.
Yeah.
To have a mold like this, people don't realize there's a gigantic block of aluminum that gets laser cut, and it's two halves, so there's two of them,
Yeah.
and you don't want to just make one tire at a time, so they have to make multiple. That's an expensive
Mm.
mold to make for something like that.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
learning the processes.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today. I really had no idea that this was such a subculture almost of the motorsports thing, and I apologize for not knowing, but I'm definitely excited to see more of your stuff out there on YouTube and everything else. And I think it's fascinating. I like the idea that some of these stuff that have got ML tools in it, or ML toys, excuse me, could be an heirloom toy for somebody, for a family. Like you can pass it down and get kids hooked on, going faster and tinkering with stuff. So,
Yeah,
any
it's kind of
final
cool. We
words?
have had a lot of customers now reach out and say, "Hey, I got this from my dad or granddad, and
Yeah.
it's got your stuff in it." And we'll try to research what they have. I do want to mention for your for your customers, for your listeners. I think this is important because most of your listeners are mechanics.
Yeah.
We have a program now that we started a couple months back for service centers. So as we're coming out with vehicles, and even with our existing parts line, there's some parents that they'll get the parts and they just don't want to put them in, or they can't
Right.
figure out, if something breaks, they don't want to work on it. And
Hmm.
with our new cars, we're doing this also. We're getting service centers around the country where people can take the cars to and have the work done on them.
Right.
And also, the service centers can sell the parts. And as the cars come in, they can sell the cars too.
Yeah.
So it's a big help it brings customers, if you have a garage, it's
Yeah.
a way to bring customers into your garage
For
and
sure.
be family friendly with it. So that's something else they can reach out to us and we can set them up on our service center program. It's not for the home, at home garage dad because you do need liability insurance and
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
So it's generally for the established facility.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Available in Canada and the U.S.
Yeah, we ship to Canada. You do have to pay
Yeah.
the
Fortunately. Yeah.
shipping fees and import tariffs and all. But yeah, we ship actually worldwide. We do a little Mexico,
Awesome.
Australia, and all the military bases around the country, around the world. We'll
Very
ship
cool.
into.
Very cool.
And for your listeners, we have a coupon code too. I
Oh,
created 15% off all products, even if it's already on sale. And it's Jaded Mechanic. Tried to keep it easy.
yeah.
So
Thank you, Alan. That is awesome. I've never had anybody do that yet. That's pretty cool.
Just makes sense.
I want to thank you for coming on today and putting up with my sinus congestion in my coughing. I appreciate it. I'm really going to look into this stuff because I think it's neat. Like, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, if you go on YouTube, you put in modified Power Wheel drag racing, Power Wheel demo derby, you'll go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you for coming on today. All the best in the future. Keep me posted on everything. I'll go follow you and keep me posted on new developments and stuff. And, anybody, if you want to, reach out to me and find out how to find ML Toys, get a hold of me and I'll set you up with Alan quite easily. So he's a great guy to talk to. Like I said, he wants to solve the problems that are out there. So, get a hold of me. Alan, thank you for your time today, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It was good to be on.
We look forward to seeing what's coming down the pipe from M&L Toys. So, everybody, as always, I appreciate you. I love you. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you soon.